We are live. Welcome to Live from Mars. This is the podcast where we dive deep into the world of music, vinyl, and everything in between. My name is Alex, but you can call me Mars. And some of you may already know me as Vinyl by Mars, where I have been sharing my love for music on social media for the past 3.5 years, which is just crazy that it has been that long already, and we are just now getting started. Today, I'm excited to kick off this journey with a special episode all about my story, how I got into music, my evolution as a content creator, and the twists and turns that brought me to where I am today. So grab your favorite record, throw it on your turntable, get comfortable, and let's dive in. My love affair with music started as early as I honestly can remember. Picture this, I'm 2, maybe 3 years old in a preschool gymnastics class. There's a Now That's What I Call Music CD playing in the background, volumes 3 and 4, I want to say. To this day, I can still remember the track list of the first 5 songs on Now That's What I Call Music 4 because that was the moment that I fell in love with music. My friends and I bouncing around on trampolines, completely immersed in the sound we're hearing. And even at that young age, music wasn't just something I heard. It was something I felt, it energized me, it made me happy, and somehow I knew then that it would always be a big part of my life. One of my earliest vivid memories is being 4 years old on a family road trip to Cape Cod. We are talking hours in the car, and what is playing on repeat, you may be wondering? Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again album on cassette on repeat. Now imagine this, my poor parents, driving with 2 toddlers, had to endure that album front to back, over and over for the entire trip. But for me, it was heaven. That album was everything to me, and my love for music and Britney circles back to that Now That's What I Call Music CD. I sang every word, probably to the point of driving everyone else a little crazy, but that's love, right? But that obsession with music only continued to grow as I went into elementary school. I distinctly remember overhearing a few classmates of mine talking about this radio station called Z100 that played this song called Up, Up, Up by Rose Falcon. I knew the song from some Disney movie. I think now it may have been from an Inspector Gadget sequel, but I had never heard of the radio station before. But the way that they talked about it made me so curious because the only real radio station I had listened to at that point was Radio Disney. I knew I had to start listening, and from then on, I was hooked on everything Top 40 pop, and Z100 became my go-to station. But I would say the real game changer happened in 2010 when I joined Twitter. For the first time in my life, I had found a community of people who shared the same passion for music that I had. And back then, social media was so unbelievably different from what it is now today. Facebook was huge, but it wasn't really the place to connect with other music fans in the way I wanted. The way that Facebook groups are all the rage these days was not a thing back then at all. Twitter, though. Twitter was where I could follow musicians, radio update accounts, iTunes charts. Yes, this was before streaming took off, and immerse myself in the world of pop. From 2011 to 2014, I was obsessed. I would religiously track radio charts, follow my favorite pop stars' release schedules, and devour every piece of content they put out. I watched late-night talk show performances, award show performances, single releases, album campaigns, you name it, I was on it. I even started reading album reviews seriously, trying to understand what the critics saw in the music that I loved. And that's when I started to think, what if I were on the other side? What if I were the one managing these artists, planning their releases, strategizing their album campaigns? I started dreaming about how I would do things differently, better even. And after observing so many campaigns, I felt like I had an understanding of the ways the industry worked. Then, streaming blew up. The year is 2014, and I am in college when a friend shares with me some music that she's into. She texted me a link to a thing called Spotify, and I think I said back to her, I can't use this because I pay for my music. Like I said, after so many years of listening and closely following album rollouts, and I'd spent years buying CDs to support my favorite artists in the years prior, how could streaming possibly benefit them the way that it would benefit me? But Spotify's college discount was too good to pass up, and I dove headfirst into the world of streaming, and I fell in love with the endless possibilities it offered. I could explore new genres, discover new artists, and create playlists for every mood and occasion I wanted. One of my favorites actually is called 75 Degrees, which was inspired by the first warm day of the year. Even now, I still revisit that playlist for a hit of nostalgia. It had songs like Say It by Flume and Tuve Lu on it, Madion's Adventure album, which I credit with getting me out of the deepest depression I've ever been in, Rihanna's Anti, and so much more 2016 core music. Let's fast forward to 2020. Ironically, one of the worst years in human history was one of the most exciting years for pop music. It felt similar to 2024, honestly, where you had so many A-list pop stars dropping music despite then the entire world being shut down, where every industry norm had to be thrown out the window with no touring, no late-night talk show performances, no public appearances. Everything had to be rethought. And yet, some of my favorite music of the decade so far all came out that same year. I mean, think about it. You have After Hours by The Weeknd, Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa, Folklore and Evermore by Taylor Swift, Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus. You have Fine Line by Harry Styles released at the tail end of 2019. You have Manic by Halsey, Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers, The Slow Rush by Tame Impala, Circles by Mac Miller, Chromatica Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande Positions. I can go on and on. And with so much downtime, I found myself reading even more music reviews, but this time it felt different. A day or two after Chromatica by Lady Gaga came out, I was sitting on a lounge chair by the pool in my parents' backyard, reading an Entertainment Weekly review of the album. I was reading these reviews and actually finding that a lot of the little tiny details that I picked up on, whether it be in the production, in her songwriting, in the general aesthetic, and thoughts on the album as a whole, that a lot of these were the same as the professional critics that I was reading. It was one of the most reassuring things because me having no formal music education was able to pick up on the same qualities that these industry titans were. But more than anything, amid a time of such darkness, I felt inspired, not only by the music that I was listening to, but by this confirmation that I may have a skill that I want to share with others. I took a stab at writing up a review of Chromatica in Google Docs, and 1,000 words later, I felt comfortable sharing my review with friends and family. And to my surprise, I got a ton of really positive feedback, which provided even more confirmation and motivation for me to keep going with this passion. This led to what eventually became Reviews by Mars, my first ever blog focused on music reviews. Shared to a WordPress site, it started off being a poolside activity for Chromatica and then ended up being 2 years worth of reviews on everything from Taylor Swift and her 2020 double releases, her Taylor's version releases, Renaissance by Beyonce, and so many more. Now you're probably listening to this and wondering when the hell does vinyl come into the picture, and this is exactly when. Let's take a quick break. Trust me, I have saved the best for the second half. Welcome back. We are finally getting into the reason why you are probably here listening to this. So, it's 2020, we're in the pandemic, and my whole family and I are living together under the same roof for the first time again in years. Just between me going away to college, my younger brother going away to college, it had been, I want to say, 6 years since we had all been under the same roof together pretty permanently. And it honestly was some of the best times I've ever had in my life, just being together, uninterrupted, just good quality family time. But during this time, my younger brother and sister were obsessing over this new social media platform called TikTok. Now, before the pandemic, I had heard bits and pieces about it in the weeks prior, just between my friends finally discovering it, them doing that viral cannibal dance by Kesha, and I kind of just brushed it off, honestly, because I didn't think anything would come of it. There have been so many social media platforms that had come and gone at this point since I was really internet literate, and I kind of thought that TikTok would just be another one of those, especially since Vine didn't succeed and the two of them were very similar. But as we got deeper into 2020 and even 2021, I was still living at home and was ready to get back to living in my own apartment again, and as a music fan, and someone getting to decorate his very own apartment for the first time, I wanted to decorate my home with vinyl records and album covers. Now, this search for home decor actually led me to TikTok looking up vinyl records and music home decor options, and that led me to Vinyl Talk. I always thought vinyl was something completely antiquated by the time it was 2020. Now, the only vinyl record I actually owned was Adele's 25, which I bought back in 2015 when the album first came out. Now, the reason why I bought it was because Adele was inevitably going to break the all-time sales record for first week, and she did that with 25. And I wanted to mark that momentous occasion as a huge music fan and of Adele's music by buying a physical version of the album, and I just kind of felt like vinyl was outdated, but like vintage and cool in a weird way. And that is honestly how a lot of people feel about it today and is part of the vinyl boom. And with streaming being the new norm, gone were the days of CDs that I had spent way too much money in the early 2010s on. Long gone were the days of cassettes and records then, right? But I loved the vintage aesthetic, and to have a 12 by 12 print of my favorite album hanging in my eventual studio apartment, that really excited me. So by then I was doing a lot of research and time spent scrolling the TikTok algorithm and was honestly mind blown as to how many modern day vinyl records there were and how they worked. I couldn't believe how many albums were still being pressed on vinyl. I couldn't believe how many different colored options there were of my favorite albums on vinyl. It felt like such a cool thing to be a part of that was both vintage and current, and now had a dual purpose as both home decor and something I can maybe actually practically play. It's now January 2021. I probably had 5 or 6 records in my possession at that point. I was really stocking them up for the eventual day that I would move out and set up that apartment. And I'm sitting on the floor of my childhood bedroom one day doing my corporate job that I hated when my dad walked in and he was carrying an Audio-Technica LP 120. Now, to backtrack a little, I always like to give my dad shit for always getting super involved and invested in my brother's hobbies because he was super into sports and always had, the need for a new baseball glove or a new golf accessory or anything related to any of those options I did not really have access to because I'm not the most athletic person in the world. I think I kind of subconsciously guilted him into getting it, but I'm so happy that he did because it is still the same turntable that I am using now 3.5 years later. It is the same record player that you've seen sitting on that black bookcase in my apartment if you've seen my videos before, and I'm so glad that he got it for me because now these circular plastic discs were not just decor but could also be used to listen to the music that I loved so much. And the obsession just continued to snowball from there. I got even deeper into vinyl. I started following people on TikTok who were vinyl collectors, and now today some of them are some of my closest friends that I have met because of this platform. And I have since moved into that studio apartment and probably had 20 or 30 records at the time that I moved in. But I was still really craving that community aspect that I had from the Twitter days. I could either choose to be a silent observer of TikTok scrolling through my feed for hours and hours on end, or I could choose to return to that creative side of myself where I love creating visual imagery and videography, and those are things that I hadn't got the chance to do in a long time, and TikTok felt like the best way to showcase my passion for music and connecting with others who love the same music that I did. I was also writing those reviews on Reviews by Mars, but again, the issue I had was that people weren't organically finding them. I wasn't putting marketing dollars behind it. I was just sending the links out to friends and family, and TikTok felt like the perfect combination of everything I was looking for. And that was the birth of Vinyl by Mars. Now, the early days of my TikTok videos are honestly kind of laughable. They were so poorly filmed. I would film unboxings of the records that I ordered to decorate my apartment back in my parents' house. It's super interesting to look back now because for the first, I want to say, year of posting on TikTok, not one time did I sit in front of the camera. I had too much self-doubt and insecurities about people from high school maybe seeing this and judging me for it. There are also a lot of mean people on the internet who always find something to critique you for, and I honestly just didn't want to fucking deal with it. I didn't. So for the first 6 months at least of posting on Vinyl by Mars, these videos were so poorly filmed. They were unboxings of the records that I ordered to decorate my apartment, but my videos really just showed off the records. I did not use my voice. I used that automated TikTok AI voice because I was too afraid of using my own. I really focused a lot on keeping myself safe and having some form of internet privacy because I grew up in the generation that really preached the dangers of the internet. I started using my voice around 6 months into posting, and I finally started to see some new followers come in because there was finally something human people could relate to. Eventually, I ended up having 5,000 followers, and that marked the very first time I ever got in front of the camera. It was horrifying. I was sweating bullets when I posted the video, and it was in honor of actually me hitting 5,000 followers. I was doing a giveaway of an extra copy of Harry's House by Harry Styles that I had on vinyl. So after I posted the video, I felt so much love and support from the friends that I had made along the way, and I just kept on going. That is when I really started to see the increase in followers come through because Something I realized about posting was that if people don't have a human thing to grasp onto, whether it be a voice or even more so a face and a person, because a human connection is so much more valuable than just a voice behind the scenes or a hand in the screen, it's a lot easier to grow as a content creator when you yourself become part of your brand. Once I started showing my face, everything changed. My content became more authentic, more relatable. People were engaging with me in the comments, sharing their own stories and experiences, and it felt like I was finally building a real community, a group of people who shared my passion for music and who cared about what I had to say. The growth was slow at first, but it became steady and even really taking off, and I was really energized by seeing the results that I had been craving for so long. But I still was itching for that way of bridging the gap between the creative side of myself, taking the reviews that I was writing on Reviews by Mars, and bringing them to a short form audience. And it was one series that took me to the level of creative happiness that I had been searching so long for.
Welcome to Best Worst Fave, where I show you what I think the best, worst, and my favorite songs are on my favorite albums. Let's listen to Sour.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing to myself because of just how forced that sounds. But yeah, Best Worst Fave was my way of combining the 1,000+ word articles and album reviews I used to write with the ease and access of TikTok. Now, in case you haven't seen any of the Best Worst Fave videos before, Best Worst Fave is a series that I created where I would take an album and I would announce what I thought the best song, the worst song, and my personal favorite songs were on that album. Best Worst Fave was my way of sharing those exact same thoughts, but in a much quicker, snappier format. And I could churn these videos out relatively quickly because from editing and filming to producing, they maybe took around a half hour to do. And it performed better than pretty much any video I had ever posted up until that point. From there, I was posting almost daily, incorporating my vinyl collection into the videos by showing off the records as well, and it felt like the best of both worlds coming together. Within just 4 months, I grew my following by 400%. And I kept going with it, but after a bit of time, the series stopped working as effectively. TikTok's algorithm is constantly changing, and you really never know what will work and what won't. Even to this day, I'll put together a video that I am so confident in, and it will barely crack 10,000 views, or if even a few hundred. And then sometimes the videos you don't expect to go viral end up going viral. There's no way you can accurately predict how the algorithm is going to work. And eventually, I honestly grew tired of it. I felt like I was in a creative rut, cranking out the same video over and over again, but I was running out of albums to discuss, and some albums I just didn't have that strong of an opinion on. And it was really creatively frustrating to be relied on for the same content over and over again when there were so many other aspects of music I wanted to explore. It's actually interesting to me because a lot of people who specialize online in growing your social media profiles tell you that the best advice is to focus on one niche and grow a following within it. But after a year and a half, 2 years of posting exclusively vinyl content, I felt creatively bored. There's only so much you can say about vinyl records, only so many times you can reiterate how to clean one. My passion for music, as I explained earlier, goes so much deeper than just vinyl. I missed talking about promotional tactics that A-listers were using, performances, rumors, and theories. Those things that made the early days of Twitter so exciting, I wanted to talk about on this platform. So instead of narrowing my focus even further and taking the advice that I had been given, I actually went directly against it, and I decided to broaden it and dive into music more generally. At first, the algorithm was not too kind. My new videos didn't perform as well as the vinyl ones because people were coming to me for vinyl content. But after months of putting in the effort and creating content on all areas of music, the algorithm eventually came around, and I am feeling more creatively fulfilled than I ever have. And now we're at modern day, and we are towards the end of 2024, which is crazy to me that the year is almost over. From a personal perspective, I'm really starting to feel comfortable in front of the camera and feeling comfortable enough with the sound of my own voice to sit here and tell you all the story, with also the confidence of knowing that some of you are going to be listening to this entire episode. Whereas on TikTok, I'm lucky if I get people to listen for more than 3 seconds on average. I feel so excited to have this platform to talk about things in more detail, where we can discuss so many more aspects of new albums as they come out, or spend the time to rank every single Taylor Swift album in excruciatingly painful detail. This is also a platform where we're going to be able to dive headfirst into rumors and theories and reviews, chart news even, and hopefully insightful conversations about your favorite artists and the work they're doing. That is something I'm really looking forward to, for this to be a collaboration between you and I. I want this to be a reflection of not only my music taste, but also your growing music taste. What new album you're excited to get your hands on, what artist you are so sick of hearing about, what song you think is completely overhyped or doesn't get enough time in the sun that it deserves. We'll be able to communicate through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube comment sections. I'm looking into possibly starting up a Discord or a Patreon platform where we can communicate even more. I've got some really exciting topics lined up for the next few episodes. I'm thrilled to be bringing on some friends of mine to talk all things music, vinyl enthusiasts that you may already know, and hopefully even some industry pros who can share insight on recording with your favorite artist or writing reviews when there's a surprise album drop at 2 a.m. This is Live from Mars, and I can't wait to see how this grows over time. Thank you for all of your effort and your support. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. I hope this episode gave you some insight into the person you've been watching on your phone screen for the last few years, if that long. I'm really excited to take this journey with you all, and thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I will see you all soon.